Becoming Hokage is the dream of many ninja in the Hidden Leaf Village. But that prestigious Hokage hat always comes with an enormous responsibility. To stand at the top of Konoha and lead one of the most powerful villages in the 5 great shinobi countries, a shinobi needs more than just exceptional strength. They also need intelligence, leadership skills, and above all, the resolve to put their own life on the line to protect the village and the people who live there. That is why every Hokage of Konoha is special, and each reached the position in a different way. Some built the village, some were chosen during wartime, some took over after tragedy, and some spent their entire lives pursuing the dream. So how did they become Hokage? Let's find out in today's video. We'll start with the man who laid the foundation for the Hokage system that would follow, Senju Hashirama, the first Hokage of Konoha. Before the Hidden Leaf Village was founded, the shinobi world was still engulfed in the Warring States period, when ninja clans were constantly hired to fight and kill one another. Among them, the Senju and Uchiha were the 2 most powerful forces. Hashirama led the Senju, while Madara was the leader of the Uchiha. After years of conflict, Hashirama managed to convince Madara to end the war between their 2 clans, and together they founded Konoha, the first shinobi village of the new era. When the village needed its first leader, Hashirama even wanted Madara to become Hokage. To Hashirama, this was not only a way to show his trust in his old friend, but could also help preserve the relationship between the Senju and Uchiha. However, Tobirama strongly disagreed. Tobirama had always been wary of Madara and believed that an important decision like choosing the Hokage could not be made by Hashirama alone. The leader of Konoha needed the support of the entire village, and when it came to reputation and the trust of the people, Hashirama clearly had the advantage over Madara. This was not difficult to understand. Even before Konoha existed, Hashirama had spent most of his life pursuing a dream that seemed impossible, creating a place where children would no longer have to die on the battlefield, and shinobi clans would no longer have to live trapped in a cycle of revenge. Hashirama had even been willing to sacrifice himself if it could bring peace between the Senju and Uchiha. In the end, with overwhelming support from Konoha, Hashirama became the first Hokage. He was not only one of the strongest shinobi in history, but also someone whose ideals were great enough to open an entirely new era for the shinobi world. After taking office, Hashirama continued working to maintain peace not only for Konoha, but for all shinobi villages. At the first 5 Kage Summit, he proposed balancing power among the great nations, including distributing the tailed beasts among the major villages, in the hope of preventing large-scale wars in the future. Although that peace could not last forever, what Hashirama left behind changed the entire shinobi world. He ended the era of war between the Senju and Uchiha, built Konoha, and laid the foundation for the Hokage system that followed. Next is Senju Tobirama's journey to becoming the second Hokage. As Hashirama's younger brother and the first Hokage's most important right-hand man, Tobirama was involved in building Konoha from its earliest days. After Hashirama died from causes that were never clearly explained in the manga, Tobirama succeeded his brother and became the second Hokage. However, Tobirama came to power in an era that was no longer as peaceful as Hashirama had hoped. Tensions between the shinobi nations eventually developed into the First Shinobi World War. So rather than simply preserving what Hashirama had left behind, Tobirama focused on turning Konoha into a more tightly organized village, capable of surviving and fighting in a world that was still full of conflict. This was also where Tobirama left his greatest mark. He helped establish many important systems in Konoha, including the Academy, the Chunin exams, and the Anbu. These systems made the training, evaluation, and organization of shinobi more structured. Konoha's model was so influential that many other shinobi villages later adopted similar systems. Tobirama was not only a leader and strategist, but also one of the most formidable jutsu innovators in history. He developed many techniques that would later become extremely important in Naruto, notably the Shadow Clone technique, Flying Thunder God technique, and especially summoning impure world reincarnation. Tobirama's leadership style clearly reflected his practical, disciplined, and military-minded personality. Unlike Hashirama, who always placed his ideals of peace first, Tobirama focused on preparing Konoha for every possible threat, and often appeared on the battlefield himself. Interestingly, he is also the only Hokage who has never been seen wearing the official Hokage hat, which somewhat fits the image of a leader who preferred taking action on the front lines rather than sitting behind a desk. Although some of his decisions were controversial, especially the way he handled the Uchiha clan, there is no denying that he built important foundations that helped Konoha function and endure over the long term. Next is Sarutobi Hiruzen. Although Hiruzen's tenure would later become the subject of much controversy, the way he was chosen as Hokage is one of the clearest moments that embodies the will of fire. Many people often believe that Minato was the youngest Hokage in the history of the Hidden Leaf Village. However, Hiruzen took the position at an even younger age, becoming the third Hokage at 23. Hiruzen was trained by Hashirama and Tobirama from a young age. Later, he became a member of Tobirama's escort unit alongside Shimura Danzo, Uchiha Kagami, Akimichi Torifu, Utatane Koharu, and Mitokado Homura. These were all shinobi from a generation that would go on to play important roles in Konoha for many years. The moment that decided Hiruzen's future took place during the First Shinobi World War, when Tobirama's group was being pursued by Kumogakure's Kinkaku force. They realized that one person would have to stay behind as a decoy so the others would have a chance to escape. It was essentially a suicide mission because whoever stayed behind would have to face an extremely dangerous enemy force alone. Of course, Tobirama had more or less already decided that he would be the one to stay behind and protect his students. However, before making his final decision, he still wanted to see who in the team had enough resolve to willingly sacrifice their life for their comrades. To Tobirama, this was also an important quality in determining who was worthy of succeeding him as Hokage. While the others were still considering a mission that almost certainly meant death, Sarutobi Hiruzen was the first to volunteer to act as the decoy. Danzo also wanted to take on the mission, but his hesitation at the decisive moment left him one step behind Hiruzen, and it was Hiruzen's choice that made Tobirama see the will of fire in his student, as well as the qualities needed in a Hokage. Because of this, Tobirama immediately appointed Hiruzen as the third Hokage before taking on the mission of staying behind himself. After that, Tobirama stayed behind to face Kumogakure's Kinkaku force, so Hiruzen and the others could retreat safely. His sacrifice protected the next generation, while Hiruzen returned to Konoha as the third Hokage and began a long but controversial tenure. Next is the journey of Namikaze Minato becoming the fourth Hokage. This was also one of the most notable Hokage selections in Konoha's history, because Minato had to compete against another extremely talented candidate, Orochimaru. After leading the Hidden Leaf Village for many years, Hiruzen wanted to find a successor so he could step down as Hokage. Among his three famous students, the legendary Sannin, Tsunade had already left the village, while Jiraiya did not want to become Hokage. This made Orochimaru the strongest candidate among the three Sannin, and although he would later become one of Konoha's most dangerous villains, Orochimaru was genuinely a strong candidate for the position of fourth Hokage at the time, even being nominated to the daimyo by Danzo. However, despite possessing exceptional strength and knowledge, Orochimaru's ambitions concerned Hiruzen, who believed that he was not suited to become Hokage. Meanwhile, Minato had built an outstanding reputation during the Third Shinobi World War. With the Flying Thunder God technique and his exceptional speed, Minato became one of Konoha's most prominent shinobi, and was known throughout the shinobi world by the nickname Konoha's Yellow Flash. Although some believed that Minato was still too young, his talent, achievements, and will of fire earned him Hiruzen's trust. In the end, Minato surpassed Orochimaru and officially became Konoha's fourth Hokage. However, his tenure was very short. Not long after taking office, Konoha was attacked by the Nine Tails on the night Naruto was born. Minato fought to protect the village, confronted the person behind the incident, and ultimately sacrificed his life alongside Kushina to seal Kurama. Next is the journey of Tsunade becoming Konoha's fifth Hokage. After Minato's death, Hiruzen was forced to end his retirement and return to the position of third Hokage. He continued leading Konoha until the Konoha Crush, when he sacrificed his life in battle against his own former student Orochimaru. Hiruzen's death once again forced the Hidden Leaf Village to quickly search for a successor. As the only one of the legendary Sannin present in the village at the time, Jiraiya was asked by the council to become the new Hokage. However, Jiraiya did not want to become Hokage, so he refused. Instead, he proposed someone he believed was more suitable, Tsunade. The problem was that Tsunade had left Konoha a long time ago. After losing her younger brother Nawaki and her lover Kato Dan, one after the other during the war, Tsunade suffered severe emotional trauma. In particular, Dan's death caused her to develop a severe fear of blood, something extremely ironic for someone regarded as the greatest medical nin of her era. She later wandered from place to place with Shizune, while also losing herself in gambling to escape her past. Because of this, Jiraiya and Naruto set out to find Tsunade and convince her to return and become the fifth Hokage. But convincing her was far from easy. At first, Tsunade had no desire to accept the position, and even mocked the title of Hokage, because both Nawaki and Dan had dreamed of becoming Hokage before they died. To her, that dream now only reminded her of the people she had lost. Things began to change when Tsunade met Naruto. He declared that he would definitely become Hokage and stubbornly defended that dream even when Tsunade mocked him. And through one of Naruto's classic talk no jutsu moments, his determination gradually made Tsunade remember Nawaki and Dan, the two most important people in her life who had also carried the same dream of becoming Hokage. Naruto made Tsunade realize that the ideal she had once lost faith in was still being inherited by the next generation. The real turning point came when Tsunade decided to protect Naruto from Orochimaru. She overcame the fear of blood that had haunted her for many years and once again fought as a shinobi of Konoha. These events helped Tsunade regain her faith in the title of Hokage, and she ultimately agreed to return to the Hidden Leaf Village and become the 5th Hokage. Next is Hatake Kakashi. And yes, although most of us Naruto fans are familiar with Kakashi as the teacher of Team 7, he also holds another important title, Konoha's 6th Hokage. In fact, Kakashi had already come close to becoming Hokage before the 4th Shinobi World War. After Pain's assault left Tsunade in a coma, Shikaku nominated Kakashi as her successor. However, Danzo convinced the Land of Fire's daimyo to choose him as the candidate for 6th Hokage. But Danzo died before the appointment was finalized, and Tsunade later woke up and continued serving as Hokage, so Kakashi did not need to take over the position yet. Things only truly changed after the 4th Shinobi World War. When the war ended and the shinobi world entered a period of reconstruction, Tsunade decided to step down as Hokage. By this point, Naruto had become a hero of the entire shinobi world and was clearly the future Hokage. But he was still very young and was not yet ready to immediately take on the full responsibility of governing Konoha. Because of this, the most suitable person to lead the village during this transitional period was Kakashi. He not only had combat experience from multiple wars, but had also served in the Anbu, been a top jonin, and was a commander capable of making decisions in life or death situations. In particular, Kakashi's intelligence, analytical ability, and experience made him an extremely safe choice for the position of 6th Hokage. This was also the period when the Hidden Leaf Village underwent its greatest changes in infrastructure and technology. Under Kakashi, Konoha continued to be rebuilt and expanded, gradually developing from a traditional shinobi village into the modern city we see in the Boruto era. Next is Uzumaki Naruto, who fulfilled his dream of becoming the 7th Hokage after years of effort. After the 4th Shinobi World War, Kakashi temporarily took on the position of 6th Hokage, while Naruto continued to mature and prepare for a leadership role. Many years later, after marrying Hinata and having 2 children, Boruto and Himawari, Naruto officially succeeded Kakashi and became Konoha's 7th Hokage. But on the very day of his inauguration, Naruto ended up missing this important moment. Before the ceremony, Boruto and Himawari argued over a stuffed toy, causing it to tear and Himawari to accidentally awaken the Byakugan. While trying to stop the argument, Naruto was struck in a chakra point by his own daughter using Gentle Fist and lost consciousness right before the ceremony. The strike was powerful enough to even affect Kurama inside him. Since the future Hokage could not appear, Konohamaru was forced to use the transformation technique to turn into Naruto and attend the inauguration ceremony in his place. Even so, Naruto later officially became Hokage and spent most of his time governing and protecting Konoha, as well as taking care of the lives of the people in the village. However, the heavy workload meant that he was often away from home and had little time for his family. One notable example was Himawari's birthday, when Naruto could only attend using a shadow clone. But the clone disappeared in the middle of the party, causing the cake to fall to the floor and making Boruto even more dissatisfied with his father. This shows that Naruto always put Konoha first, sometimes at the expense of his role as a father. To him, the entire village was his family, but his own family ended up making many sacrifices. Unfortunately, Naruto is currently no longer directly serving as Hokage after Kawaki sealed him and Hinata away in another dimension. And finally, the person currently leading the Hidden Leaf Village in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex is Nara Shikamaru. Everything began after a series of events caused by Kawaki and Ada. Ada's omnipotence altered the memories of almost the entire world, making everyone believe that Kawaki was Naruto's son, while Boruto became an outsider who was regarded as an enemy of Konoha. At the same time, Naruto and Hinata were sealed away by Kawaki in another dimension where time does not flow. Because no one knew the truth and Naruto was believed to be dead, Konoha was forced to quickly find someone to take his place as Hokage. Kakashi was still alive and had more than enough experience to return, but he had long since stepped away from a leadership role. Because of this, the person chosen was Shikamaru, who had spent many years serving as an advisor and directly supporting the previous Hokage, especially Naruto. Shikamaru clearly does not possess the overwhelming combat power of many previous Hokage. His greatest strengths have always been his intelligence, ability to analyze situations, and strategic thinking, which rank among the best in the shinobi world. And with Konoha facing a crisis that could not be solved through strength alone, those qualities became extremely important. The current manga also shows Shikamaru continuing to directly coordinate Konoha's forces and deal with new threats. However, there is one point that needs to be clarified. Shikamaru is not an official Hokage. He is more like a provisional Hokage because he still believes that one day Naruto will return and take over the position again. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos.